A bird pooped on the windshield while I was here. I'm glad he didn't hit me. Welcome back. Welcome back to YouTube. Is this YouTube? Is this on? Yeah, I recorded a bunch of me talking the other day and I didn't upload any of it. At some point I broke the flight controller in my 3-inch Kestrel. The USB connector popped off. And you know, I had a lot of trouble finding a replacement. I could buy the same cheap flight controller from China, but I didn't want to wait for it, and I couldn't find an easily compatible ESC that I could just, flight controller that I could just plug into that ESC that I had from the Leader 3. So I ordered something a little different, did some shopping, and I wound up getting the F4 diatone stack with the, you know, the F4 board and it's a 20 or 25 amp ESC, and it's flying great. But on my first pack I got stuck in a tree very high up. You know, I did some gymnastics to get out, tore up a couple of props, and blew out my Caddx Turtle. And while I was taking things apart, I noticed some of the wires were getting torn off of one of my 1306 motors. And that's my fault. That's not actually the fault of the crash. But that's kind of out of scope of this video here. So that was down, and I needed to order parts. No! Oh, geez. No, I'm lying. So that quad was down, but I have parts to build a 4-inch Kestrel. And I've been cutting carbon for that, running into some small issues that I didn't think of, because the diatone stack is an M2 stack, and so is the one from the Leader 3. And I have M3 holes in the center stack of the Kestrel, and I have these tiny little rubber grommets that will convert the M3 holes down to M2, and they act like a soft mount. Now, that's all I've been using, and this new stack that I'm using from Aikon, this big beefy Aikon 20 by 20 stack that you can use in a 5-inch 6S drone, are M3 holes. So it's the first time I use the M3 holes, and I noticed that my bottom plate doesn't actually have room to let an M3 screw head clear the plate to screw it in. It's not a big deal. But I can't fly my 3-inch because I'm short a motor and I'm short a turtle. I'm not sure what happened to the turtle. I'm assuming that in my crazy turtling and whatever I was doing to get out of that tree, must have been some back EMF voltage or something. I don't know. I don't even understand how any of that works. But I'm assuming it got fried somehow. I only know it got fried because I plugged one of my old Caddx cameras, a non-turtle camera, into that same wire, and it gets power and it powers up and works just fine. So probably have a bad turtle. I ordered a new one. But I got to mate in the 4-inch Kestrel yesterday. We had a little bit of time before it started raining again. We were at the little park near Brian's house where there's a water tower, and I really didn't get to fly much. Feels a little robotic. It's got too much eye. Probably need to mess with the feed forward. It's not as efficient as I was hoping, but I also didn't really get to test it for efficiency. My two or three flights were all about 4 minutes long. They were pretty punchy flights. I'm using HQ 5x4.3x3 props, and I'm a dope because I thought those were pretty much the most gentle 4-inch props I could find. Most of the 4-inch props are these old bullnose props, and who wants to use those? They've got to be terrible. But I found out when I got home that HQ makes a 4x3x3 prop, and I ordered some of those. I bet those are going to be much more appropriate. But overall, it feels pretty great. Coming out of a dive, and I came out of a lot of dives. I came out too early because I thought I was going to need that extra time to, you know, the 3-inch quads, they don't bite very well when they're coming out of a dive. And this thing just grabs like a 6-inch quad. It's fantastic. But it feels so much different than a 3-inch. It's not the first 4-inch quad I've flown, but the old one I flew, you know, you put 1300 milliamp 4S packs on it. It was huge. It was probably almost 400 grams with the battery, maybe even over 400 grams. It was fatty. This is the other way around. This is a 3-inch quad that's scaled up to the bigger props. It's 270 grams. It's a little tubby. I was hoping to hit 250, but I'm using a heavy ESC. I'm using a big RaceDayQuads 1000 milliamp VTX. You know, if you swap those for, you know, 3-inch scale components instead of stuff that goes on a 5-inch quad, you know, maybe we'd save 3 grams here, 4 grams there. We might get 10 or 12 grams off there and maybe use a slightly smaller battery to get under 250. The only battery I have to get under 250 is 250 grams is a 450 milliamp battery, and that's pretty small. That's kind of dinky. But this big ESC and the nice flight controller will let me do some experimenting, and I figured this big VTX, it would be fun to try some long-range flights. I don't know where we do long-range flights here. Maybe I'll fly from one end of the golf course to the other. That's the better part of a mile, I think. But we'll find out. Hopefully we've been recording all this time. In the beginning I had trouble having too much flex, too much give at the... Oh, do you hear that wind? It's a windy day, Judy. Too much flex at the grommet, but now I have flex in the bottom plate. It's easy to get rid of, but it's a bummer. Why am I scratching my head? I'm disappointed in the props so far. They feel great, but I only flew for about 5 minutes of very gentle flying. It takes about 22% throttle to cruise at about 35 miles an hour. And that's about what I did for most of the battery, and yeah, that was about 5 minutes. 5 minutes and it was hurting. I was down at under 3.4 volts when I landed. And doing a freestyle flight, I'm not sure how long it actually lasted. Halfway through I stopped to change my idle offset, and to lower it I think I put it down about 2.8%, and yeah, it rebooted when I did that, so I'm not sure how long that flight was, but I can check it in the HD footage. But it wasn't long. It was fun, but it wasn't long. A lot of practice. My thumbs are a little shaky today, twitchy. Didn't have breakfast yet. Is it tracking my face? It stopped tracking my face. Yeah, hopefully the 4x3x3 props are a little better. I'm gonna head home. Have a good day. Might talk some more. Who knows? So what did we learn today, Judy? We relearned that I should have breakfast before I go fly. That's always a good plan. And we learned that these 4.3 pitch props, it's definitely too much. I mean, I've been a little worried that a 1606 motor just isn't big enough to efficiently spin a 4-inch, but I figured it'd be close, and it's close. It's almost a wash. I mean, I know I'm generating more thrust. I'm enjoying flying this so far more than I enjoyed the 3-inch, but I'm also losing some flight time when I'm using that extra thrust. Yeah, I mean, we can look at static thrust numbers, and I don't trust any of that, but at least it'll give us a ballpark of what we should be expecting. And on a 3-inch prop, anywhere between like 300 and 350 grams of thrust per motor is quite a bit. And it takes about, you're not going to get that in the real world. That takes like 20 amps per motor to get up to, well, it's 300 grams per motor. 300 grams per prop. Oh, geez, I saw a guy almost get hit. The 4-inch props will pull closer to 30 amps at the top, but they'll pull more like 700 grams of thrust. And I know I won't hit any of those numbers in the real world. On a real quad, you'll run out of air to move before you maintain that kind of thrust. But there's definitely a lot more torque out of these 4-inch props. Feels like driving a V8 instead of a turbo 4-cylinder. Yeah, every time I fly the 3-inch, I feel like I'm goosing the throttle just a little too much to not hit the ground after a power loop or an S-turn. And with the 4-inch, that's easy. I can come out of a power loop or an S-turn fairly smooth. What else do you guys want to know about? Oh, I'm hoping the 4x3x3 will be an improvement. I hope I still have my... Well, I know I'll still have more thrust off the line. You can't... It's not off the line with a quadcopter, is it? The only store that had the 4x3x3 props in stock was Get FPV. I think that's why I didn't know they existed. I bought all these parts at Pyro Drone and RaceDayQuads for these two builds. But I ordered a couple of replacement 1306 motors for the 3-inch Kestrel. I'm really happy with how that's flying with the new diatone stack. It's a pretty good little build. I think the 3-inch is an HD build that flies nice, and now it's pretty well under $250, I think. Especially if you fly like an XM Plus receiver or something, but my $30-some-odd Crossfire module kind of breaks that $250 barrier, but that's to be expected, right? Do you guys care about what I'm learning about cutting carbon fiber? When I started, I was cutting very shallow passes, and I was increasing my cutting rate, the feed rate, I believe that's called. So I was cutting a 0.5 millimeter deep on each pass and going at about 500 millimeters a second. And I've been increasing that. I got it to a little over 1 millimeter per pass on the 3 millimeter carbon, and that would take 3 passes to cut all the way through, and cut just a little bit farther than all the way through is a good plan. But I've noticed I'm dulling my bits pretty quickly, and they get dull right at the tip, not because I'm only cutting with the bottom millimeter of the bit, of the end mill. So I've reversed course here. I've gone down to 300 millimeters a second for my feed rate, and I'm cutting all the way through the material, 3 millimeters, a little over 3 millimeters for each pass. And it's working, but it's leaving a lot of the dust in the, that crevice that gets left behind. It's the chips. They'd be chips if this was real material, but it's carbon fiber, so it's just dust. And that dust gets warm, and it gets a little bit, it's epoxy. It's an epoxy resin of some sort that holds the carbon fiber plate together. And I'm guessing that I'm putting a little bit of heat into that because my bit moves a little too fast. And boy, it really gets stuck in there. It takes a lot of cleanup. I haven't decided if it's worth it yet, but the cuts are pretty fast when you only have to make 1 pass instead of 3. I'd like to say there's a happy middle ground, but I get the same buildup on the 2 millimeter parts. So I was okay at about 1.2 millimeter cut depth, but I'm in trouble at 2 millimeter. We have to make our left, Judy. We're gonna make a left, now we're gonna make another right, and then another left. How about that? But the cuts are coming out nice and clean for the most part. I just have a lot of dust to clean up, and even after cleaning it up real good, I'm still, getting a little on my thumb. But we'll see. turn you off, Judy. Have a good day.